So, my greatest concern isn't the racial part. Although I hold space for that, that is not my greatest concern. My greatest concern is that we're dealing with a society that labels everyone a friend. Everyone is not your friend. Let's jump into it. All right, you guys, welcome back to Headlines in Motion. I'm your host, Brittany Monet, where we talk all things factual and in real time. So, if you haven't heard, maybe you've been living under a rock. There was a teen in Mississippi who went out with some friends, some white friends, okay, and never made it back home. Although his cell phone did make it back to his mom. Now, when I saw this story, I knew the internet was going to be in a uproar. Little did I know everyone was on the side of this is suspicious. And I totally understood. Now, listen to me, okay? I understand this is a race thing. I get it, right? We have all white kids, one black kid. They go out onto a boat. All the white kids make it back. None of the kids know where the black boy is. Somehow his phone has made it back to his mom, but not him. I totally understand. And I deeply, deeply understand every feeling that people are feeling. Hello, I am a black woman. I get it. But the other side to that story is the one that people really aren't talking about. So for me, I like to look at it as understand who your friends are. A lot of people assume because they hang out with people, they have fun together, that these people are their ride or die true friends. However, we have all been in situations where we know something doesn't feel right. I'm around these people and they're sneak dissing me. They're, throwing shots at me. They're subliminals. They're, picking on me more than they are the others, borderline bullying me, but we're all supposed to be this group of friends. We have all seen it and we have all been that friend. So for me, it's very important that we recognize that because it gets very dangerous no matter if you're white, black, brown, purple, yellow, green, I don't care. If you are in a space where you know there are times where you don't feel safe, you should probably not be in that space. And if you are in that space, bring someone you can trust. Bring a friend, bring a cousin, bring a brother, bring an uncle. I don't know. Bring somebody into that space so you know at all times you're protected and you're covered. Also, with that being said, what I also want to say, parents, I understand. Listen, I'm not a parent myself, but let me tell you, I understand wanting the best for your child. Education, opportunities, I understand. But with that being said, we cannot associate every single time the proximity to whiteness to be the best place for our black children. Okay? Because for me, when you have it, especially as someone who did go to a predominantly white high school, when you don't have someone else there that looks like you and also understands you from a cultural black standpoint, you feel so alienated that you have no choice but to assimilate into a world that is unforgiving and honestly does not want you there to begin with. Okay. So when you have that and you're a black boy going into a space that one, probably don't want you there to begin with, and two, you're doing everything to fit in. Yeah, something bad might happen. It's not every single time, I understand. But on the off chance that something does happen, you are the throwaway. You are the castaway. You are the one that they don't really regard or their loyalty isn't going to stick with you. So as a parent, you have to understand that. And as a parent, when your child says, "Hey, I'm going out to hang out with Brad, Tom, Jimmy, and Paul," you should call up and say, hey, let me call my sister, let me call my cousin so your cousin can go with you. Not because you feel this urge to be like all white people are bad, but there needs to be a level of protection there for you. Because should something bad happen, you have someone there to protect you. And this happens regardless of the race. Again, I hold space for the race, but this happens regardless of the race. I actually see it a lot more now online amongst, you know, girls, right? Like girls are getting together and like beefing with each other and oh, she has this or she has that or she thinks this or all these different things, especially if a man is involved, right? And they're so catty that they might befriend someone they hate just to see their downfall or to be the cause of their downfall. So we have to understand that not everyone is your friend. Now listen, I didn't want to do this episode to unpack the case. That will come later. Please believe me, that will come later. But I wanted to just quickly sit down because I was like, my first thought when I saw this was like, those weren't his real friends. Like everyone's talking about the race at this point, right? Because we don't know so much of, things are being revealed in time. But when it first happened, I just felt this overwhelming sense of, oh, those weren't his friends. Because there's no way that you go out with your friends, again, regardless of the race, you go out with your friends and someone doesn't make it back home and now everyone's saying they don't know. I feel like everyone, I don't know, boy or girl, whatever. I feel like we all kind of check in with our friends just to say, hey, we're home, or, to make sure they made it safe or whatever the case, especially if you're leaving someone without their cell phone, right? Like that should be the main person that you're trying to stay in contact with. So again, him not having his phone and now we're seeing reports of things being deleted and all of that. Yeah, I just felt immediately those aren't his friends. Those aren't your friends. There are people who I have went out with different like sets of groups, and you might have one friend who you're like, oh, this makes me uncomfortable or this doesn't seem right. And they're like, okay, cool. Let's find something else to do. Or, all right, totally understand. You know what I mean? What's happening? Like, let me know, like they check in with you to see what you're feeling or why you have those feelings. Then there are other friends who you might say, I don't think we should do that. That doesn't seem like a good idea. The energy's weird in here. And they'll totally disregard you, ignore you, be like, well, you leave or you stay. It's like, you have to know who your friends are because things can go bad. And if you are with someone who you already have this like weird feeling of like, I don't really trust them, please do not go out with them, or don't go out with them by yourself. And it's so funny because growing up, now mind you, this was not me because I was a very, I want to say antisocial, but I'm an introvert, right? So like I don't want to be at everybody's house. I would have people come over my house very rarely, very, very rarely. I probably can count on one hand the amount of times people have stayed at my house, like big sleepovers. And no, like after, honestly, it wouldn't even be a full 24 hours. I'd be in my mom room like, okay, girl, you can take these people home. I can't, So I understood and I understand, I say all that to say, I understand parents being like, who all over there? Who is going? I need to know their mom and dad, like all of those things because it was a level of protection. I think now parents want to be their kids' friends and they want to just, keep their kids happy that they're like, oh, you're going with Brad and Tom and okay, cool, have fun, and it's like, do you really know these kids? Have you seen these kids interact with your son and not interact with your son in a way that, I don't know, when people are putting on airs, right? And like trying to seem so friendly, like, no, you need to read through all that and be like, is this person really like my child? I will never forget another time my older cousin came to me and she was like, watch out for that one. She might not be your real friend. I will never forget that because it was just certain things that she saw as an older woman, right? And I mean, she probably was in her 30s at that time. So now in my 30s, I can totally understand. But she was like, watch out for her, you know? And now looking back then, I'm like, what? This my homegirl. Like, what? And, you know, things just end up making sense in the long run. But you need people like that around you to be like, something's not right. And although you may love being around this person, always remember to protect yourself. So that to me was what first struck me. And that was like, okay, there needs to be a conversation around that because I feel as though every year there's a story about someone going around people who are supposed to be their friends, whether you're white or black, you know, Spanish or whatever, go around their friends. And then all of a sudden, someone goes missing, someone dies, and no one knows anything, or the stories don't make sense. And it's just so unfortunate. And I believe that, you know, in this case, I'm not trying to jump to any conclusions about who did what. That's why, like, I'm not even touching that. I want further details to come out. I'm not touching that. I saw a lot of people, side note, y'all, I saw a lot of people, right? They were like, oh, these kids deleted their social media. These kids deleted their social media. Of course they did it. And it's like, hold your horses. Could you imagine this happening and immediately the internet is finding your name? You know what the internet does? They're going to start doxing you and putting up every picture they can find and speculating and getting in your comments. Like, as a teenager, that's probably a lot already dealing with if something did go down, okay, you know, what was your participation? Like, you're dealing with so many things and like just all of that is coming at you. The last thing you need to be doing is sitting on Instagram, scrolling, reading comments of people telling you to kill yourself. You know, like that's the last thing you want to do. So yeah, you might deactivate your Facebooks, I mean, your Instagram or your whatever. So you're not dealing with the onslaught of people rushing to your comments, rushing to your page, picking apart your pictures and like just doing all of these strange things because they're outraged on the internet. So I was like, okay, guys, like let's calm down. Like, you know, it makes sense that they deactivated their social medias because they probably don't want to deal with all of the craziness and having their pictures pulled apart and blasted everywhere. Like, let's let things be investigated. Now, do I believe down there in Mississippi, they gonna do the right thing? Okay. But I do believe we need to let more things come out and get more details before we start picking apart these kids. I believe this did not seem to be something that was pre-planned, because if it was, again, why did we keep the cell phone and return the cell phone? You know, so it doesn't seem like these kids were operating some like crazy master plan. I think something occurred, right? And now we just have to determine what actually occurred because something did take place, something very suspicious and weird did take place. So we just have to understand what happened. But at the end of the day, if you don't take nothing else from what I said, please remember, especially as parents, please remember to check in on your kids, check in with them friends, watch how they interact with your child, listen to your child. If your child says, I feel uncomfortable, or, you know, especially what happens is, right, kids will be telling you a story and they'll say like, oh, this one said this or this one said that. And, or they'll catch their friends doing really shady things and they'll just kind of disregard it as like, you know, like, "Ugh, whatever, they're so this, they're so that." And it's like, no. Those are the ones you do not need to be around. I don't care how fun they are. I don't care how popular they are. I don't care if it leaves you, you know, you cut two off and now it only leaves you with two friends. Fuck them all. Understand? You need to be sure that as as a kid, you're safe, and then as a parent, your kid is safe, because this new generation child, they is some evil motherfuckers. I'm gonna be honest with you, okay? I don't know what was in their milk, but something not right with them. I'm telling you, they are very violent. I talked about that in a whole nother episode. You can go back and watch it. The kids are very violent, okay? And they just don't have a regard for life. So if something should happen or something should occur, please protect the children and know who your kids are. So if you hear your kid telling you a story, like I was saying, sorry, I got sidetracked. If you hear your kid telling you a story and they are saying things, but you know as an adult, that's, you know what I mean? Like you catching the shade, go ahead and tell them you might want to distance yourself from them. And every time they want to go out, who all gonna be there? If that shady one there, yeah, maybe miss this small trip. Go to the next one. Don't keep hanging out with them shady ass bitches. Sorry for calling the children and the babies bitches, but y'all know what I'm saying. Watch who your friends is, okay? That's all I got, okay? Because not everybody is your friend, and don't get mad when somebody say we not friends. Like we cool and we can hang out, maybe not on a boat, maybe not in no private, intimate type vibe, but we could kiki sometimes, after class, in between classes, maybe we go get a little Starbucks drink or something like that. We could kiki, but other than that, you're not a friend, because a friend ain't gonna talk about you shady. They not gonna be slick. They not gonna be talking behind your back, doing all these weird things. Friends don't do that. So with that being said, I'll talk to you guys next episode.